President Biden met virtually with his economic team earlier today to discuss steps to ease consumers' pain at the pump. Our next guest was part of that meeting. Let's welcome Cecilia Rouse. She's the chair of the White House Council of Economic Advisors. Chair Rouse, we're so grateful for your time tonight. Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure.
You briefed the president today. What were the top lines of that meeting? What did you tell him about the state of the economy, the possibility of a recession, and how long gas prices can keep falling?
So the purpose of the meeting was to brief the president on gas prices and the efforts of the administration to do what it can to address them. So the first piece of business was to really highlight how over the last 38 days we've seen a decrease in gas prices. And that the modal, so that means most gas stations are charging under $4 a gallon. So that's important. But we also know that prices are not low enough. So the most important way to bring down gas prices is to get more oil on the market. So the president has done that through the historic release from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. We talked about how we've been able to execute that in a way that many people did not anticipate. Many were skeptical, but we've actually managed to do that. That has been contributing, working with our partners around the globe for their strategic petroleum reserves as well. It's why the president welcomed the OPEC+'s decision to increase production. It's while he was in the Middle East. He was also briefed on the progress in helping the EU consider a cap on a gas ban. If they have a price cap on the oil that Russia would receive. And also an update on the conversations that Secretary Granholm has been having with leaders in the oil industry.
We know that a lot of this is a wait-and-see mode until that August 3rd OPEC Plus meeting. But I'm wondering, in the meantime, gas prices have been falling because people have been fearing a recession, that people will stop spending, they'll stop traveling, and that demand will pull back. CEA put out a blog post this week, which I'd love to get your thoughts on, because it sought to demystify the definition of a recession, which is, in its most basic form, 2 quarters of negative growth. You say that that's not the case in that blog post, but I'm wondering, is that blog post out there because you're expecting a negative print next week?
So we put out the blog post that the Council of Economic Advisors is designed to give objective advice to the president and to help educate the public and others about economic concepts. And we wanted people to understand that while, so colloquially, we may think of a recession as 2 negative quarters of growth, the National Bureau of Economic Research Business Dating Committee actually officially dates recessions. And when they look at the economy, they look at a broad number of measures. They're looking for broad indications of slowdown across the economy. And 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth, while very important, and they would take note, is not dispositive. Importantly, they put a lot of weight on employment. And we know from our prior employment report that employment has been growing in the first half of this year. In fact, over the past first half of this year, we've had over 1 million jobs added to our economy. They look at consumption, personal consumption, and we know the personal consumption expenditures have been growing in the first and second quarters of this year. They look at personal income. We know that's been growing. We look at industrial production. That has been growing as well. So
inflation, though, has started to eat into some of that consumption, as I think you noted. And one of the ways the administration has been seeking to fight inflation is possibly to consider lowering or rolling back some tariffs. J.P. Morgan says that would only help by about a fraction of a percent. But when you're crunching these numbers for the president, what's your view on whether that would actually have a material impact?
So first of all, the consumption expenditures have been adjusted for inflation. So we are seeing real continued economic activity even as we face inflation, which is understandably, it's too high. It's why the president is giving the Federal Reserve the space that it needs to do its work. So the president is considering the tariffs and the impact that they would have on inflation. They're also in a geopolitical context. He's considering that. I think most estimates are that the kind of tariffs that would be strategically addressed would have some impact, would not completely address our inflationary pressures. Look, it's the Federal Reserve's responsibility to really be focused on price stability and maximum employment. The president is doing what he can as well. That's why he's focused on gasoline prices to get more production on the market. It's why even in the longer term, in medium term even, he's focused on increasing the economic capacity of our economy, because that is how we absorb the kinds of shocks that we've absorbed with this pandemic and now Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So he wants to build a kind of economy where we have that kind of productive capacity. But, in the near term, it's the Federal Reserve. He's giving them the space to do what they need to do.
Well, President Biden has also said that he expects to speak with China's President Xi within the next 10 days. Do you expect there will be a tariff decision before that conversation happens?
I'm not going to speak to timing. This is a complicated conversation that he will have with Xi. But what I will say is that the president looks at the geopolitical context. These are complicated times, but he is really focused on maintaining the U.S.'s strategic strength. He is focused on reducing gas prices. He understands the impact of inflation, and he's doing what he can to help there.
You mentioned the Federal Reserve and its role in fighting inflation through raising interest rates. In the last couple of months, at least 2 Fed governors have suggested that the Fed should have moved faster in hindsight. Do you wish that the Fed had begun pulling back its asset purchases, begun raising interest rates earlier so that they're not trying to slam on the brakes right now?
So I don't want to comment on the Federal Reserve policymaking. We respect their independence. What I will say is that the U.S. economy grew faster last year than it had in 40 years, that, as I just mentioned, we've got a strong labor market. We see consumer expenditures continue to be relatively robust. We see income remains high. We see industrial production is high, which means that our economy has got the headroom to be able to withstand the Federal Reserve's actions that it needs to take to bring down inflation and to withstand the challenges that are brought on by Putin's war against Ukraine. So I understand these are going to be challenging times ahead. I do not have a crystal ball. But what I do know is that our economy is well positioned to muddle through and to power through as the Federal Reserve does what it needs to do.